This is Bio 181, Chapter 17, Biotechnology. So, a type of biotechnology, bioremediation. This is a fun one. So, using living organisms to clean up and break down environmental toxins. So, one of the hardest things to break down is oil. So, on the surface of the ocean, you've got oil that's going to be floating on it. A lot of times, oil is now extracted from really deep down in the seafloor. That's where a lot of the reserves are. And so it's just going to come up and then spread out on the surface because, well, it's lighter than water. So it's going to float and spread out. It's very hard to break that down. So what happens is we would release tiny little bacteria and hopefully find single-celled organisms that can utilize these hydrocarbons. Remember, oil, it's a type of lipid, and a lipid has a lot of carbon hydrogen bonds. Right? So long fatty acid tails, things like that. So they could be chains or they could be ring structures. But if you find an organism that is able to utilize the energy that's broken in there as a food source, then it's a win-win situation. You can put the microorganisms out there. Hopefully they'll utilize all that food supply. When they're done, they'll run out of food source. So hopefully they won't imbalance the ecosystem, and then they'll die. Also toxins like heavy metals, things like that, textile dyes, those things are often treated with bioremediation. Wastewater. So the water, when you flush your toilet, if the water goes to the same place here in Flagstaff that it goes if it goes down your sink in your kitchen, and that's to the wastewater treatment facility. There's multiple ones, and they're similar to those all across the United States. They use bacteria. So the bacteria are going to break down the primary waste in our wastewater is going to be nitrogenous waste. So proteins are very high in nitrogen. And so when you release urea, one of the byproducts we have in urine, we have in feces, very high nitrogen compounds. And so you might have compounds like ammonium. And if you were to just release that into the Rio de Flag, the main natural stream in Flagstaff, you'd end up killing a lot of the organisms. But what we do is you take the waste that comes in, you put it in a massive pool. So this very large, like Olympic size swimming pool, basically. And then you feed it to a whole bunch of bacteria. So there's a few other things we do to physically remove some of the heavier sediments and settling ponds, but you take this biochemical waste, feed it to these microorganisms. They go through a series of chambers. So like half of this is going to be in a chamber that's anaerobic. So that's no oxygen. Okay. And then the water will be circulating through it, and it will kind of go around and around multiple times until these organisms are able to break down the nitrogenous waste. It's going to go from where there's oxygen to where there's no oxygen. And eventually, it's going to break down into nitrate, so a slightly different nitrogenous compound. And then, oops, oh, 2, 3. Then that's going to be broken down into nitrogen gas. So nitrogen gas is the most common gas in our atmosphere. It's 80% of the atmosphere. So with the help of these microorganisms, they take what would be very toxic for the environment and release it to this gas that is the most common gas in the atmosphere. So really helpful. Stem cell therapy is a therapy that one of our old colleagues here at CCC worked very actively on. He still does. here in Flagstaff and looks at ways where these cells that are not yet differentiated, so stem cells are cells that have not specialized. They could become cartilage. They can make cartilage. They could become a chondrocyte. They could make the lining of your skin or your intestines. They could make fat cells. So they have not specialized. And if you have areas that are damaged, say you have in your knee, you have cartilage that's not very well exposed to blood circulation, then you can have a really hard time healing those areas. And so one of the promising areas for rehab is injecting stem cells into those areas. They will hopefully be given the right signals so that they can actually turn into the cartilage cells that need to be replenished in that area. Another thing here is bone marrow transplants. So in your bone cells, the bone cells are in the long bones. We have areas where we're making red blood cells. Okay? And so if you transplant stem cells from one individual into another, they can go in there and hopefully replenish those cells that can make more blood cells for you that would be healthy. Gene therapy. So gene therapy, this is where we take a gene that is defective in an individual. So say you have a type of congenital blindness. So you've got some defective photoreceptors in your eyes. You can't see very well. So if we were to look at that, there's some gene on your DNA that was mutated, right? So it's mutated. So what has happened is scientists are able to now, take the healthy gene. So they'll take a healthy gene. So the healthy gene, healthy, yay, for a good sight, right? And we'll take that and then inject it into your eyeball and just kind of flood that area with a whole bunch of DNA that hopefully will be incorporated into your cells and taken up. Now, how to do that, how to actually get it into your cells? Well, viruses are extremely well adapted for that purpose. So viral DNA is injected with the virus into the cell. So a virus might attach to a receptor on your surface and then trigger being brought into your cell. And then along with that virus is going to be the healthy DNA. So then that healthy DNA is brought into your cell. And then hopefully there's also some enzymes that can help integrate that new healthy DNA into your genome. So it'll find a place in your genetic code, it'll put in the healthy DNA, and then it will start creating that protein that is the healthy form. Not the best drawing, but all right, that'll do. So that's it. The end. Yay.